Welcome to another episode, everyone. Big TC from Schoolyard Crip, the homie, rapper singer Ty Dolla $ign's brother. I was just locked up with this individual. He's locked up for a very serious crime, but it appears that he did not commit the crime. He just would not snitch, perhaps on the individual who did. A witness changed her story, and he ended up getting life in prison. I was with him in Centinela State Prison, where I paroled from in April 2022. We were in the same building together on CR. We talked every day. He worked in the kitchen. And I knew that he was Ty Dolla $ign's brother, but he never said it, not one time. And I read the comments, and someone said that they were in the cell with him. He said, man, TC is a stand-up individual. I was in a cell with him in Wasco. He's one of the most stand-up men I've ever met in my life. And I never knew that he was Ty Dolla $ign's brother. That's his celly. So he never says it. He never goes around saying, oh yeah, that's my brother. He never told me that, not one time. And never even told his celly that. He has his own life and his own identity. Big TC from Schoolyard Crip. This is Boys in the Hood TV.
Sky's the limit. Yeah. I've been trying to get it. Yeah.
Welcome to Boys in the Hood TV. Today we're going to be discussing the life of Big TC from the Schoolyard Crips. Now, Big TC was born Gabe Griffin in 1984 in Los Angeles, California. Now, he would be born into a two-parent home along with his brother and sister. His father, Tyrone, was a musician who played for the popular band called Lakeside in the 1980s, which was responsible for the popular hit record, The Fantastic Voyage. Now, Gabe, along with his siblings, would all inherit the music gene from their father, although their mother was against them pursuing that type of career. Now, Gabe and his older brother, Ty, were very competitive as kids and would always get into little scuffles with each other. Now, eventually, his older brother, Ty, would start singing at a very early age, which would have a big impact on Gabe, who wanted to be just like his brother. Now, for a while, Gabe had a good childhood, but things would start to change for him when both his parents would get a divorce. Now, with his parents splitting up, he and his brother would eventually live in different areas. Now, by the age of 12, Gabe would start hanging out on the block with some kids in the neighborhood and start getting into trouble. But eventually, he would start hanging around the Schoolyard Crips. Now, the schoolyards are located in the Mid-City region of South LA, and they hoods sit between Crenshaw and Venice Boulevard. Now, they have been in this section since the 1980s and have been responsible for multiple shootings, murders, and drug dealings. Now, their main rivals are the Mansville Gangster Crips, and this is a bitter, violent feud that's been going on since the beginning. Now, Gabe will be sent out to attend Venice High School, which was a good distance from his hood. Now, this school was mainly infested with gangs like Venice Trece and Venice Showline Crips. Now, it wouldn't be too long after this that Gabe would get his put on to the schoolyards. Now, he would represent the 4800 block, which is the 17th Street clique of the schoolyards. Now, once he got his put on, he would start going by Big TC. Now, on the flip side, his older brother, Ty, will be affiliated with their rivals, the neighborhood Rolling 20 Bloods. But regardless of their gang affiliation, this will not change TC's relationship with his older brother, Ty. Now, TC will continue to run the streets, getting into all kinds of trouble before eventually getting arrested, and he will find himself being sent to juvie and having to sit down for a while. Now, by 2002, he'll be back on the streets. And of course, he would link back up with his homies from the block, and he would manage to stay out of trouble for a little bit. Now, also around this time, the schoolyards will be engaged in a lot of beef in the streets, which would involve shootings and murders. Now, there will be some internal issues around 2003 after OG named KC would take the stand and testify against another Schoolyard Crip for a drive-by shooting that would cause the death of another individual. Now, by September of 2003, TC's girlfriend would give birth to their son, who he would name Shine. Now, this would be a life-changing experience for him, being a father. But only a month later, TC will be arrested and charged with evading a police officer, a hit and run, and driving without a license. Now, he would plead no contest, and eventually the suspended license and hit and run charges would be dismissed, and he would take a plea deal for the evading the police. Ultimately, he would get 3 years probation. Now, at this point in LA, the streets was plagued with a lot of gang violence, and there was ongoing war with multiple different rival hoods, which included TC's hood, the Schoolyard Crips. So like anyone that's active in the street, TC made the decision to always keep a gun on him at all times. But this choice would have consequences, and this would lead to him being arrested on the 10th of January of 2004. Now, he would be charged with an unlawful possession of a firearm. Now, during this preliminary hearing, he would plead not guilty, and eventually, by February, he would bond out. But only weeks later, on March 6th, at around 10:50 p.m., KC from Schoolyard would be out and about and standing near a bench at a bus stop on Washington and Vineyard Avenue. Now, while standing and waiting, suddenly he was approached by a man. Now, Ross would then turn and respond, "What's up?" And that's when the man would pull out a gun and open fire. Now, KC would be hit multiple times, twice.
KC, remember, is the individual who got on the stand against the Schoolyard. So we can see TC's life, he's in and out of trouble like a lot of us, like I was as a juvenile as well, and into my adulthood, hell, to just recently, actually. And, this is the culture. This is the lifestyle that we live inside of this culture, this destructive culture. But now this man, okay, he testified before, and now he gets taken out. This is all before Ty Dolla Sign becomes Ty Dolla Sign. I would think that once, a close family member of yours, your brother, your mother, father, child, becomes rich and famous, then they're going to make sure that you stay out of certain situations. I know that everyone is their own man and you do what you want to do, but that's the whole purpose of grinding and working hard, is to make sure that your loved ones are okay and not out here running the street and find themselves in a situation where they're locked in prison for the rest of their lives. TC has a long time in there, and he's been in there for some time now. Shout out to the homie TC, man. He is a strong individual. He is a good dude for sure.
In the head and once in his shoulder. The suspect would then flee the scene, and a woman by the name of Brenda, who's in the area, would come running up to check on KC, who was laying on the ground. Now, also on the ground was another man who's at the bus stop named James, who ended up being shot in his hand. Now, 911 and EMTs would arrive shortly after, and both KC and James would be transferred to the hospital. But not long after, 39-year-old KC would be pronounced dead. Now, police would interview the other victim named James, who would tell officers that there was a brief exchange between KC and the shooter. Now, the other witness named Brenda would tell officers that she did not see the shooter's face. But sometime later, she would change her story up, and she would pick out TC in the photo lineup shown.
See, the fix is always in, the setup is in. There it is. Now, so she does not know the perpetrator. It's not like someone got to her, pressured her to change her story, or this was always her story, that she did not see the shooter. It's not like she first identified Gabe and then TC/Gabe, and then came back later and changed her story and said, no, it wasn't him. Just the opposite. She first said, without provocation and without an incentive, that she did not see the shooter's face. It's not like she was protecting him. She doesn't even know him. This man was at the bus stop. She says that she didn't see the shooter's face. Then, what do you know? All of a sudden, here it comes, and she identifies him out of a photo lineup. How can you now identify him out of a photo lineup if you didn't see his face? A photo lineup to give is 6 individuals total that you have to look at and pick one out and say that this was a perpetrator. So out of 6 people that you had to look at, you saw him well enough now to know that this was him. Out of 6 people that you're looking at that all look similar, you can pick him out of a lineup after not even seeing his face, you said.
By detectives. And on March 19th, detectives would execute a search warrant on TC's mother's home. Now, the only thing that they would find in his home was an envelope with gang graffiti. Now, not long after, TC would be arrested for murder and assault with a firearm on a person. Now, once in custody, TC would tell the police that he was nowhere near that scene, but he was at his girlfriend's house. Now, eventually, he would be charged for the murder and the assault with firearm. Now, during his trial, witness Brenda would tell the jury that she was walking to the store and that she saw several men standing at the bus stop, which included KC and also TC standing around. And that moments later, she heard gunshots, and when she went to turn around, that's when she claims that she saw TC standing there holding a gun with his arm extended out. And ultimately, TC would flee the scene. Now, TC's defense would argue that the police during his arrest admitted that they knew that TC was not the shooter, but that they needed him to tell who the shooter was. But when he refused to tell them who the actual shooter was, that's when they decided to charge him with the murder. Now, the murder weapon in his case was never retrieved, so the DA's entire case.
What the hell? What do you mean? So, because it was just one individual there that was the perpetrator that was the shooter. One individual. So it's not like even like TC was there. Like he was an accessory after the fact, any of that stuff. It was one shooter there. TC was not there. He was with his girlfriend. This was actually verified essentially by the police, they're saying. But since he wouldn't tell them who the shooter was, they saying, oh, you from schoolyard. You know, this is some internal beef. This dude was a snitch. He got on the stand, snitched on one of your homies, whatever. You know who did it. I don't know who did it. You know who did it. Tell us who did it or we're going to charge you with it. Since we don't know who did it, we're going to charge you with it. He wasn't even there. The police admitted this? The police admitted that they didn't believe that he was the shooter at all. But just that they believe that he knows who the shooter is. So he gets life in prison because y'all say he know who the shooter is. If I'm sitting at home with my girlfriend, how the hell do I know who the shooter is? And if I do know, I don't have to. I get life in prison because I didn't do it. I get life in prison because I don't tell you who did it. I didn't do it.
Solely depending on the word of the witness named Brenda, Big TC would be found guilty of first-degree murder and assault with a firearm, and he would be sentenced to 67 years to life in prison.
Damn.
Now, following the trial, TC would immediately seek an appeal, but during his time, he would discover that his attorney had been disbarred from practicing law. But as the years went on, and his brother, Dolla starts to blow up in the music industry, Big TC would showcase his singing abilities by releasing multiple songs and videos while in prison.
Wait on me, could you wait on me? I love you. Could you stand by me?
And his brother Dolla would also eventually release an entire album dedicated to his brother Big TC. And as of today, TC is still fighting and appealing his case, hoping that one day he'll be released.
My little bro in prison for murder he didn't do. Everybody know he didn't do it, but you just get put in the twist sometimes.
I remember looking my brother in the face. I said, you shot somebody? You know, you took somebody's life? And he said, nah, I didn't do that.
I felt fucked up like anyone would feel when I found out that he was arrested for a murder, you know? How would you feel?
His main objective was, I've got to get my brother out. I don't care how much it costs or what I have to do, but I'm going to get my brother out of jail. And I just started crying and I was just so happy and so thankful that he remembered.
I had a lawyer that didn't do his job, and I paid the ultimate price. You know, music connects me to my freedom. It's a saving grace. Watching my brother, you know, do his thing, it's beautiful. It's amazing. Like I said, he ain't never done nothing else. It's just been music. This is his first album, you know what I mean? So, of course, it means everything.
I would like to thank everybody for tapping in.
That's nasty work. That's wild. Shout out to Boys in the Hood TV. Shout out to the homie TC. Schoolyard Crip. Shout out to Dolla. Man, that's messed up. Let me know what you think in the comments. There it is. You know, as Dolla said, that this is a crime that everyone knows that his brother did not do. His objective, of course, is to get his brother out of there. Has not happened yet, but hopefully it will, and it will happen soon. Sometimes these things take time. It took my cousin some time to get out of prison, but he eventually got out, appealing the case, fighting back and forth, etc. Then eventually they let him out, even though he had a life sentence after so long in there. TC has been in there. This conviction apparently was in 2006. So we're talking about 20 years, and he's still a young individual. But that's nasty work for the police to admit that they know he wasn't the shooter. They don't even believe that he was the shooter, and yet the man ends up with 67 years to life in prison. How does this happen? This is the American justice system for you, man. They're sitting here admitting that he didn't commit this crime, but since they believe that he knows who committed the crime, they believe that, and he won't tell them. They say, okay, we're going to charge you with it. And then force Brenda to change her story from, I didn't see the shooter, to, it's him. She changed her story. Got that man life in prison for a crime that he clearly did not commit. She first said she didn't see the shooter. No one's seen the shooter. That's nasty, man. This is foul. This justice system is not right. And he's fighting on the pill, as Boys in the Hood TV said there. He's still fighting. And again, hopefully he comes home soon. Money is the great equalizer. I haven't heard a lot from Ty Dolla $ign of late. You don't know exactly, what he's doing in the industry right now, but I'm sure he's still thriving and working on securing the freedom of his brother. Let me know what you think in the comments. Stay safe and stay free. Ooh.